Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So today we are hosting a webinar Basics 2. So this webinar is going to go through a few main topics before just kind of overall housekeeping. We're going to try to keep this to around 45 minutes, maybe a little less. You all can submit questions using the panel, the question panel and the control panel of GoToWebinar. So I'll keep an eye on that periodically. I may miss a couple like that are pertinent to immediately what I'm saying, but I'll always go back and answer those. You also can always write into support to contact us about any questions you may have during or after the webinar. And then when at the conclusion, this video should be posted online tomorrow, maybe even later today. So the topics of this webinar 2 are going to be, first we're going to talk about setting up and attaching forms. We're going to go into billing reminders, how to post payments, issue refunds, how to cancel, delete a registration, also how to edit a registration. And then next week, we're going to have the third video and fourth video in this series, Tuesday and Thursday as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start in our stage environment, which is a test environment. So you'll see it's just a basic kind of, I think it was the same one that Brooks used in our last webinar, but it is just our Ranch Conference Center. So this is just a dummy organization we use for testing. So let's first talk about event forms. So I'm going to go here to event management. And the great thing about event forms in DoubleKnot is that they can be used multiple times. They can be copied, they can be manipulated. You can attach them in a variety of ways. And they're very useful to collect all the data that you need for your events, facilities, programs, whatever it may be. Now, we always stress to people that we want you to be as strategic as possible when you use forms. It's all about user experience. You want your customers to have a smooth, easy process. So that's what we're going to really focus on, is how to build forms that are concise, collect the info that you need, but aren't a burden on your customers. So what I want to do first is kind of show you a registration and then talk about the forms that I attached, what I've collected, how I built them, and why. So for this example, I built this Family Fun Day event, a series of events, we'll call it. So I built this category. So I went to utilities. I built a category called Family Fun Day. And in the event, I assigned each event to that category. So I have my list of Family Fun Days that are all in my category here, Family Fun Day. So what I'm going to do is paste in this URL. And this is in a separate browser window you'll see now. I'm in a Safari window that lists each of my events in that category. So again, I'm going to show you what these look like, how they're attached, and then we're going to talk about how I built them. So I'm going to pretend I'm a customer. I come to your website. I click a link that says register for Family Fun Day. They click on this link, and this is what they get to. It lists each of your Family Fun Days, each of your series of summer camps, day camps, speaker series, whatever it may be. It lists each of them out, the date, the remaining space, and I can come to the right and select which one I want to register for. I can click and view more details if there were more details, whatever it is. So I'm going to say register here for the event on the 6th. So I can say register, again, very bland here, event details page. I'm going to say register. Now I get to the selection of participants. So I'm going to select just, for example, say one youth, one adult. So this page is now where you're going to see the first form that I have built. So standard here, if I have an event that's set up for named registrant, it's by default going to ask for first and last name. So I'm going to say this is Joe Doe. Now, underneath this standard item, because this event is set up for named registrant, you're going to see my form. So I have a form attached that asks for lunch choice, allergies or special needs, and t-shirt size. So I'm going to say lunch choice here. This is a custom form. This person's going to get a hamburger. They don't suffer from any allergies or have any special needs. So I'm going to say no. And then t-shirt size for this youth participant is a youth medium. Now the adult, I'm going to say this is Karen Doe. Lunch choice here is going to be the chicken salad. And yes, this person does have allergies. So I'm going to click yes, and another question pops up that says, please list and describe any special needs or allergies. And I'll say peanut allergy. T-shirt size, I will say youth small, and I'll say continue. So again, before I do, lunch choice, allergies or special needs, description of special needs, and t-shirt size is all a form that I've built in DoubleKnot and attached to an event that I have built as named registrant. So I'll say continue. When I say continue, you're going to see the second form that I built in DoubleKnot called emergency. It's called FFD Emergency Contact Info, Family Fun Day Emergency Contact Info. So on this form, it says emergency contact info. What's the name? So I'll say Kevin Doe. Relation is parent/husband. And the phone number is, and I gave them an optional second emergency contact, and I'll say continue. So when I say continue, now we get to the shopping cart, and I can check out, keep shopping, or make payment. So we saw those two forms attached. Now let's talk about how I built them. So again, I have the lunch choice, the allergies, and the t-shirt size. That's one form. And the second form is my emergency contact info. So what we're going to do is now go back to where I'm logged in DoubleKnot and talk about those forms. So in Event Management, under the Forms tab, here's where my form library exists. So I can search for any form title. I can say FFD, and here are the two forms that I built for this event. So the first form here is my registrant info form. I just named it registrant info. So let's go here and say edit. When I say edit, I have really two options on the edit page. I can edit the actual form, or I can go to form properties. So I'm going to go to form properties first. Form properties is where I build the title and any description of the form that I want. There's other basic options here that are important, or most of them are. Item label position, you can say top or left. I usually leave it at left. You can experiment with this. You can hide forms in your form list as an admin if you don't want those visible. Under the check marks here, we have show form progress. Particularly, I'm not a fan of this, but what this does is along the top of, as they go through the form, it shows their progress step by step. If you like that, you can turn that on. Again, a lot of this you can play with. You don't have to worry about these two settings for anything with your events. These are really for sending out e-cards where someone gets a email with like a thank you letter. That stuff is important if you're doing, we have a lot of our zoo clients, for example, doing like adopt an animal or a donation thank you letter. This is how you build templated items on forms that are basically mail merged into messages to customers. So for events, this isn't as useful. Display in one page. This is an important function. So what this does is in DoubleKnot, as you'll see in a moment, you can build forms that have multiple pages. And some people like the user experience of clicking through a form. They don't want the form all in one page because it's a gigantic form, and they don't want people scrolling down the page forever, filling out a form. Display in one page is nice if you have a small form with conditional logic, and you want it all on one page, because when you build, which you'll see in a moment, a form with conditional logic, you have to build it on multiple pages. So if you want that form all in one page, you can go ahead and click display in one page, and it will all appear in one page in DoubleKnot. This item is important, and we are using this on the other form. What this means is if they're registering for more than one event with the same exact form attached, don't make them fill it out twice. So my other form that I built, the emergency contact form, you'll see that I marked this form. Sorry, let me go back here to form properties. You'll see I marked this form as if you use other registrations or shopping cart, autofill with the same info. So basically, if they register for 2 family fun day events at the same time, don't make them fill out the emergency contact info twice. When a question come in and says, do we always need to specify the form properties? I have forms I've created but never looked at the properties. No, you don't have to go to form properties, because when you build a form, by default, it asks you for the title and you're at the properties page. So you don't have to, but you always want to consider the basic options, because these are important in how you attach forms. You always want to consider those. It is okay. Someone asks, is it okay to leave the default? Yes, it's okay to leave the default, but again, you always want to think about these basic options. Do I want to display it in one page? Do I want to use this function? You always want to think about user experience, so it's important to consider those form options. So now let's go look at how these forms are built. So let's go back here, and I want to start with my registrant info form. So this form here has 4 items on 2 pages. So let's go in here to edit form. So in the edit form page, this is where you go and build a form. I can say add item to page, and this is where you go in and add individual items to a form. So I can add a checkbox item, a date option, drop-down menus, radio buttons. I can do cost displays. We'll go through a couple of these in a moment. The first one I have here is a drop-down menu. So it simply says lunch choice, and you all saw that on the event we just tested. I added a drop-down menu, and I added lunch choice, and I built out these items. So if I go to edit item here, you'll see I built out a question, says lunch choice, and I gave the appropriate answers that they can choose from. And you can also put costs. So if the veggie dog was more money, I could add a cost for the veggie dog. We have required, and I made this a required answer. So I'm going to make them answer the lunch question. They have to provide me an answer. You have other options here. So you can allow other and say, allow them to enter in a custom text. For lunch, that's probably not appropriate unless you wanted them, if you could say here, I'm bringing my own lunch, so they don't have to choose lunch. You probably wouldn't put other for this type of question, but for other questions, you may want to have them type in an other answer to that question. You can randomize the order. You can put labels on it if you wanted to put 1, 2, 3 down the order, that kind of thing. We have data dictionary, not applicable here, but this allows people, if they have a form where you attach it per person, you can pull from their profile. Not as important in most events. You can allow people, you can hide items, you can make it private, meaning you can add an item to a form and make it admin only. A lot of people use that for data collection, so they'll have an item on the form, maybe a multi-line text area, and it allows them to add custom information as an administrator to a registration, and then that's available in reporting. So you can have a custom item on the form where you can type notes about the registration, and when you all pull reports, that information is included in that report. So you could have, again, you could put custom information about a specific registration. Not used that often, but it is available. Anything that you have on a form, you can assess sales tax. So if this was something where I was charging for an item, I could go ahead and put a cost and then say assess sales tax, and it will assess sales tax. Email restrictions. So for certain items, you can set whether or not you want it to appear in their confirmation email. So you can uncheck this or check this. Not for all items, not for single line and multi-line text areas, because there could be PII or personal identifiable information. So we don't allow that for everything. Reporting label. This is important. So in DoubleKnot, when you download your reports in Excel or in the report viewer, the question text is going to be the header item or the column header for that download. So in order to abbreviate those, we give you a reporting label option. So instead of lunch choice, it just says lunch. And this is more important for like allergies and special needs. So if I say go back here and I go to page 2 and it has the question for please list and describe any allergies or special needs. If I edit this, you'll notice my reporting label down here is allergies/SN. So instead of this long question in my report download in the column header, it's just going to have allergies/special needs. So it allows you to abbreviate your report. So that is an important feature. So back to page 1, you'll see I have lunch choice. Does this participant suffer from any allergies or special needs? Yes or no. And then you'll notice that I have a page 2. And the reason I have a page 2 is because I have conditional logic built into this form. So in order to have conditional logic, I need to have multiple pages. So basically what I want to happen is if they answer yes to this question, does this participant suffer any allergies or special needs? I want it to open up another question that says, okay, describe those to me. So on page 2 of this form, you'll see I have please list any allergies or special needs, just a standard item. I went to add item to page and I chose a multi-line text area and I entered in the question as well as the reporting label, and I put that in there on the form. And that's my multiple line text area you see right here. The only difference is I added conditional logic. So if I go here and I go to item conditions, what I did is I said, okay, what logic do I want to build on this item that says, please list and describe any special needs? Well, I only want that to show up if they answered to this question, does this participant suffer any allergies or special needs, equals yes. And I click add condition. And when I do that, this is what pops up, the conditions added to that item. And again, the condition is only show this question, please list any allergy, please list and describe any allergies or any special needs or allergies, only show that question if it equaled yes on the previous page to does this participant suffer from any allergies or special needs. So it's only going to show up this item if it meets the conditions listed here. So this is a pretty basic item condition. You can get quite elaborate with conditions. You can say does not equal, is greater than, contains, because we have a lot of forms, big, camp forms in the system with all types of logic built in. So that's why you see all of these items here. You can say equals, does not equal, all that good stuff. So let's go back to page 2. So you'll notice that I have my please list any allergies or special needs or allergies, and it has that conditional logic, so it's only going to show up if they say yes. And then you'll see t-shirt size, so they can then come here and select t-shirts. Again, that's just built with a drop-down menu with items in it. If I say continue, now I'm going to go look at my form that I have built for my emergency contact info. So this is just a very basic form. And what I built here is, you'll see here on the top is a header item. So if I edit this, it's just going to say emergency contact info, just a header item on a form. I have a number of single line text fields. So again, I just went here and said, here's a single line text field. That allows me to put a question text, tell me your allergies or special needs. What's the first name of your emergency contact? Is this answer required? You can put minimum value, maximum value, the default value, reporting label. So what I did for this form is I added a single line text field. I used the question text name, reporting label. I put EC name, so emergency contact name. Relation to participants, phone number, again, just another single line text field. I can say, I added here, just to break up the form, I added an item type called a horizontal line. So I can add that in here. Some important items on forms, really the most commonly used are single line text fields, drop down menus, radio buttons, check boxes, all that good stuff. A question that has come in is, how do you delete an item? So you can delete items on forms as long as it's not attached to an event with registration. So you'll see here, there's no delete button to the right. The reason being is that this form is attached to an event which I have a current registration on. And if we allowed people to delete, it would corrupt your data. So you can't actually delete any items on these forms for your own good because it would mess up your data. So the solution to that is, if you truly don't need one of these questions, what you would do is create a copy of this form. So I can come here and say, I want to create a copy of this form. Now you'll see right here, here's my FFD emergency contact info underscore copy. I can say edit, and I can change this to, maybe I change this to, next year we want to change this. So I'm going to call it 2021. Save. And if I go to edit form now you'll see that I can delete any of these items. I can add items. I can do whatever I want to this form because it's not attached to any event with current registration data. And then you can take this form, edit it, and assign it to any new event that you have in the system. So forms, we do put some safeguards in there so you don't get in trouble and corrupt any data that you have. So that's really why that is in place. Some other important items that you may want to see, which I'll show you, is I'm going to say new form here, and I'll just say test 2. Some other items that are important, just real quick, I like to show people is variable cost display text. This is a very useful item on a form. What this allows you to do is basically multiply a quantity by a cost. So this is used, for example, if you want to sell something, multiple of an item. So I could say I want to sell large t-shirts or small t-shirt, but I want them to be able to put a number of shirts. I want to let them order as many of them as they want, not just select one. So I can put the cost as, $12, and the description is small shirt. The line item description is what actually shows up in their shopping cart and on their receipt. I can say answers required. I probably wouldn't for this type. I can put a min or max value. Again, I don't want to put a minimum on the amount of t-shirts that they order, so I'm just going to put nothing there. I can assess sales tax if I want. Reporting label, I can say small t, whatever I wanted. And again, this then will multiply a quantity by a cost. So a lot of people sell t-shirts, and so in order to do that, they use these items. So I could say copy item here. I could say copy this item, and then I could edit it and say, you know what, let's do a medium t-shirt. Same cost, $12. I'll say medium, limit changes. So you can build an order form here for t-shirts. You can build a form for t-shirt order form, and it will list each size, and they can come here and just enter a quantity. And you could do this for all types of things. You could do it for souvenir mugs. You could do it, we see this used for like items going up to camp or for special events where people have options to purchase multiple of a certain item. So again, it just multiplies a quantity by a cost. So this is a very useful item that a lot of people use. Again, that's a multiple line, a variable cost display text item. We also have something called rich text. So a lot of people like to put descriptions or images onto a form. So if you have maybe you want to put images of the t-shirts that you want to sell, and then you have those variable cost display items that they can just pick a quantity of each shirt. So you could use a rich text field to come in here and put a complete description of those actual items on the form. Put pictures in there, whatever you want of those actual items. So you can put those in here. The more people use rich text, I prefer the HTML item because it is the standard one you use throughout Double Knot more often. Again, you can have, and you have access to your Double Knot image library. You have everything here, so you can upload images of the t-shirts. Not just for t-shirts, if you want people to go to a form and has a picture of the camp or whatever it is, you can actually put that all within a form. Another important part of a form is a lot of people do waivers in forms. And that's another way that HTML is used in a form. So people, a lot of the time, I could say add page here. And maybe what I want to do is, I could call it like camp waiver. And I could say add item. And I want them basically to see a waiver and then agree to that waiver. So I could say camp waiver, and I could say, let's do an HTML item. And I could build my entire camp, you know, I could put all my formatting in here. I could paste in my my waiver from Word, whatever it is, it's already formatted, and I could submit that. And they would land on a page with the camp waiver. They'd be able to read the waiver, and then you could use a thing called checkboxes to make them agree to the waiver. I could say the text is going to be waiver agreement, and I could say the answer text is I have read, agree to the camp waiver. And what I can do here is basically give them no option but to agree to the camp waiver. So I can say maximum to choose and minimum to choose is 1. And basically what that means is that when I add this item, you'll see my waiver agreement. And in order for them to move on and get to the camp checkout page, the order checkout page, they have to check this box that says waiver agreement. I have read and agreed to the camp waiver. So this is another common thing that people do within forms is build waivers. And again, HTML item is really useful because you can format this, put any kind of text you want. And then the waiver agreement is, again, a checkbox item where people can have the waiver agreement, the answer text, and then I give them no option. I say minimum and maximum to choose is 1, so you have no option but to choose that item. So next thing I want to show you is, let's go back, jump back to our registration. So my family fun day, I registered for this event. I signed up, Joe is my youth and Karen is my adult. I filled out this form. I also filled out the emergency contact info. But let's say I want to sign up for another family fun day. So I would say keep shopping. And it goes back to my category URL. And I also want to sign up for the 620 Family Fun Day. So I can say register. And I'm going to say, again, I'm going to say 1 youth, 1 adult. And you'll see here, it says add someone I've signed up before. And I can say, I'm going to add Karen as the adult. And you'll notice that this form doesn't autofill. So why do you think that is? I'll let you ponder on that. Why would I not autofill? Why would I not select the option for this form? Remember, we talked about the options on my registrant info. Why would I not select the form property right here? The reason I'm not selecting that option is because, well, it's possible that they want a different lunch option that day. It would be, for allergies, I could technically do this, but I want to make sure that if I if I just check that box, it would autofill this information. And maybe they want a different lunch for the different camp day. They also get to choose a new t-shirt size. Again, probably be the same t-shirt size, obviously, but I do want to give them the option to do a different lunch choice for the different camps that they're coming to. Now, if I say continue, you'll see this does autofill. You see how because I have both these events in my cart, the system knows to autofill the emergency contact with what I entered on the other form, because on my form that I built for the emergency contact info, this one here, on the form properties, I set this here, if used by other registrations and shopping cart, autofill with all the same information. So again, I have both items in the cart, and it knows, okay, well, you filled out this form, you filled out this info on the other form, so I'm going to autofill it here. And they have a chance to edit it, but it will autofill, and they don't have to fill out this entire form again. So if I say continue, now you'll see here all of this information, my payment schedule, they can check out and make payment. One more question here. If you choose the autofill option, is the user allowed to change the selection that is automatically added? Yes, they can, but it changes for both. So it's not independent. The form, they can change it, but it changes for both event registration data. So the download will include, it's going to change it for both events. So that is important to consider. If for emergency contact, you say, well, they could have different emergency contact for the event on the 6th than the 20th. Well, in that case, you would not want to mark that form to autofill the same information. So that's kind of what you want to consider with those form properties. Maybe they for the different date, Uncle John is out of town and he's not the emergency contact anymore. So if that's the case and you're concerned about that, then you would not mark that form to autofill the information. So there is a lot to do with forms, and I'm well aware of that. We are actually going to have a separate, we're actually doing a series in the spring of separate webinars for really diving into certain parts of the system, and one of those will be forms. So if you have more questions specifically on forms in terms of building the form, don't hesitate to write into support or be on the lookout for the announcement of that webinar. The last thing I want to talk about with forms, which is very important, is how we attach them. So if I go to calendar activities here and I click on my family fun day and I go to assign forms, you're going to see how we assign these. So I have my registrant info. And you'll notice that I marked both of these required, but I marked the registrant info for each registrant. And the reason I do that is because I want to ask this form per person. So I want to know lunch choice, allergies, and t-shirt size per person. So the way I do that is mark it each registrant. I also could hone this in even further. I could say only ask that for adult, only ask that for youth. So you could actually build custom registrant info forms. So maybe for adults, you want to ask more information. You could create a registrant info form adults and assign it only to the adult registrant type. Display as registrant attributes. I like this function. This is why you see the form on this front page. It shows up on the registrant page as registrant attributes. It shows up under the name field here. If I didn't check that, it would show up under this forms tab. The second part of the registration, I would have two forms, the emergency contact and then the per person information. So if you have a very brief form, you should definitely use the registrant attributes option. Lastly, I have my emergency contact info. And this form is just marked required. I need them to open it up and fill out any required info. It's not per person and it's not each registrant. So you can assign multiple forms to an event, and we have a variety of ways you can say before adding people, I want them to read this before they even start the registration. You can add a form that shows up before. You can assign it per person. You can even hone it in for just adults, just for youth. And then you can also say display as registrant attributes or not. Okay, so let's move on here. We spent a lot of time on forms, so that's important. The next thing we want to talk about, and again, if you guys have any questions on forms, go ahead, ask away here, or you can go ahead and send them email into support@doublenot.com. Next thing I want to talk about here is payment reminders. So on this event, I built a payment schedule. So you'll see, as part of this registration, if I go to my shopping cart here, I have a payment schedule. Amount to pay now, next payment due 5/1, pay in full on 6/1/2020. So what I've basically done is built a basic payment schedule that says I want a deposit of 10% at registration, and then I want 50% due on 5/1, and I want the full balance due on 6/1. So anytime you have a payment schedule, you can build a payment reminder or notifications in DoubleNut. So if I go to notifications here under payment schedules, you'll see I can enable reminders and then set a date range for when I want these reminders to go out. So I could say, and the date range is based on the dates that I have set. So you'll know my payment dates are, payment 1 is 5/1, and then the balance due is 6/1. So I have 2 dates where I have payments due. So this date range basically says, I want to send a reminder a week before, and I want to send a late reminder a week after. So that means 7 days before 5/1 and 7 days before 6/1. I want to send them a reminder that says, hey, you got a payment due in a week. And then conversely, I want 7 days after 5/1 and 7 days after 6/1. I want to send them a reminder if they haven't paid that, hey, you have a late payment due was due 7 days ago. And I could say, send this every 3 days, every 4 days, in between this date range. So I'm just going to say, send this every 3 days. So we'll send it twice within the first week and twice in the week after payment is due. We have a standard payment message that's sent out. It just says, hey, here's your payment reminder. Here's how you log in and make a payment. Real simple. So if I just come here and click save, now I have my payment reminder built, my payment notifications, and it will send out those messages 7 days before, 7 days after, and it will send every 3 days. So for this, it will send twice and twice after. Every 3 days, starting a week before 5/1, it will send it every 3 days in this time period. Someone asked, can you send a reminder about registration or just payments? This is just payments. Right now, if you want to send a reminder about the event, you'd have to do that manually through CommCenter and schedule those out. If you want to have custom messages, you can do that. So we allow you to build custom messages. And if I go to my utilities section here in event management, there's an option under messages and instructions. It says manage notification messages, and you can actually build custom messages. So I can say this is late payment. I can say, I can build a custom message that says pay up. And if I go to my actual notification page where I build those out, if I go to notifications here, you'll notice this drop down. The standard one is just the standard message. Most people just use that. But if I build a custom one, I can have my late payment. I can select that in this drop down for this event, and you'll see it will have my custom message here, pay up. You know, whatever you want to put. Your registration will be canceled if you don't pay in 7 days, or whatever you want to put here. So that will show up. Next item we want to talk about is actually managing a registration. You know, how do I delete? How do I edit? How do I issue a refund? So there's really two ways to go about managing a registration in DoubleNut. at any time you can select a specific event and manage the registration. So I could say, well, I know the Wong family is coming on Family Fun Day. I know where the registration is. So I can select the event and click on Manage Registrations. That will list all of the registrations for this specific event. It's going to list them all out. So here's Jessica Wong's registration. I can come to the right here and I have all these different functions. So you always can access this information, these actions, managing registration actions under the specific event. I like to personally use the registration search function because it's going to always contain everything you need. So if I go to registration search in event management, it allows me here to come and search by any of these criteria. So I think, let me check, I think I can search by this person's email. I believe that's the one I use for this event. Yes, so I can search by their email, and here's the registration. And again, if I come to the right here, here are all those action items for managing a registration. So you can either use registration search, or if you know the specific event that Jessica Wong's registration is under, you can select that event and go to manage registrations. It's really your choice. But if you get a phone call, Jessica Wong calls you and says, hey, I can't go to Family Fun Day on 6/6. Can you help me get a refund or move my registration? You could just go to that event and access the registration. If she didn't know what date the event was, you could just come to registration search for that registration, and it will pop up and show you specifically which event she's registered for. So maybe she calls and says, you know what, I forgot my son has or daughter has allergies. I forgot to put that in the registration. You could come in here, go to edit registration, and you can come in here and change any data that you need. So Kevin does have allergies. So I could say, okay, he has a peanut allergy, whatever it is. And you can come in and save that registration, access any data you need, and you can just say complete order, and we'll save that change. So you can come in at any time and search for that registration and edit it to change any information that you need about that registration. You could also move the registration. So maybe Jessica calls up and says, I can't come to the 6/6 Family Fun Day, can you delete it? Well, you can say, well, how about another date? And you can actually come here and choose another Family Fun Day and move their registration to that other event that you have. Well, maybe Jessica says, no, we can't. I just want a refund. You can say, okay, let me issue a refund. So you can come into this registration search, click on View Payments. Once you say View Payments, you'll see the payment history for this registration. You'll see, okay, they came on 1/30, they made an online purchase for $275, and they paid the 10% deposit, which is $27.50. Their balance is $247.50. Their next payment's on 5/1 of $137.50. So here, if I wanted to, you'll see how this is underlined. I can click on this credit card payment right here. It's going to take me to the actual transaction detail. Right now, this transaction is pending because I just issued it today. Most of the time for you all, it's not going to be pending. It's just going to be listed as actually totally completed in the system. So what it would look at, and I could see, let me see if I can pull one back to like December so we can actually see what one looks like. This is all test data, so I don't think it's going to show. Basically what it is once you have a non-pending registration, you'll have an issue refund button right on this page where you can then go and issue a refund. So all within that registration area, all within the registration search or on that event page, you can go through and actually issue an actual credit card refund. So you can click on the payment, it will give you the payment details, and then there'll be an issue refund button where you can go through and actually refund the credit card amount. You can issue a partial refund or a complete refund. When you do that, it will update this payment history. So it will actually put in here refund, and the balance will go back to the full balance due of $275. So if you wanted to, you could then, after you issue the refund, you can actually come here and delete the registration because you want to open up that spot for other people or other registrants. So you can actually go to view payments, issue the refund. Once the refund is issued, you can come in here and delete the registration. And that is a full cancellation of the registration. You also can post payments to a registration in the view payments option. So I could come here to view payments and I can say adjust balance. And what this allows me to do is I can actually post a payment to this registration. So maybe Mrs. Wong came in and paid with a offline. She dropped a check off at the front desk. You can actually post these payments to the system here. So she came in and paid. I'll say she dropped off a check for $150, and the posting date is going to be the 29th. And I could say check number. I could say adjust. No, my payment, my screen is frozen. There we go. And I could come in here and I could put in the amount that I want to, or actually let me put 130. I'll put the amount that they have in for the next payment. So I'll say 137.50. Don't freeze on me. Come on. And if I adjust this balance, it's going to adjust the balance by 137.50. So I can come in at any time and adjust the balance by, I can select a different type of payment. I can say they paid by credit card, electronic check, gift card, cash. So if I said credit card, electronic check, that's actually going to bring up the page where I can enter in their online payment information and process a payment. So if they showed up at the front desk and say, here's my credit card, you could select credit card and actually run through their credit card right there to post a payment. So you have that ability through the system. You also can do miscellaneous debits and credits. So if you wanted to add to the balance due for whatever reason, you could do a miscellaneous debit. If you wanted to reduce the registration amount by a dollar amount, you could do miscellaneous credit, and that will reduce the balance due by whatever amount you enter here. So we really have all these different payment options. So the next question we have here is, when you do issue a refund, does that cancel the registration, or you have to do both steps? That does not cancel the registration. So you have to do both steps, because a lot of times people want partial refunds. Maybe they overpaid, they want money back on their card, whatever it may be. You can always issue a partial refund. So refunds do not cancel the registration. You have to go in and delete the registration. Again, because we offer the ability to give partial refunds for whatever reason. So it is a two-step process when you want to actually cancel or delete a registration in the system. One thing I would promote to people is documentation for canceling. So this documentation that you see here is under the user manual section. So if I go to the feature list and go to user manuals in production, this canceling registrations and reservations, this goes into more detail here about canceling registrations and reservations, gives detailed examples. So a lot of people like this kind of stuff in writing because it's confusing on miscellaneous debits, miscellaneous credits. This kind of gives you the standard rundown of, okay, how do I cancel a registration that's an offline payment? How do I cancel a registration that's an online payment? So that's located in user manuals under canceling a registration or reservation. So if you want to access more details on that, please feel free to do so. Let me pull up. So that's going to conclude the webinar for today. I'll give you guys a few more moments here if you want to ask any other questions. Again, there's going to be another webinar, the third in this series, next week. We are also going to have a series of webinars upcoming in the spring that's going to tie into our documentation. So we're going to do quick hit webinars, dive into specific parts of the system for documentation. So be on the lookout for that. Again, if you have any further questions, you can always write into support and reference this webinar. Someone asked, how do we get a copy of the user manual? So the user manuals are all located online. So when you log into DoubleKnot, the bottom left-hand corner on the feature list page, all of the user manuals are located here. So everything is located in this view here. If you click on help here as well, you can search for items. So if you want to come in here, this is located in this area too. So if you want to use the help option, that's available to you as well. But the user manual specifically are located under administer under user manuals. So thank you all for attending, and we will hopefully see you next Tuesday at webinar number 3. Thank you.